running the play comes before the touchdown. Dealers they were unfamiliar or too timid or hands off. They just that's not my way.
Sure.
We've been very reactive in our acquisition strategy.
You don't understand acquisition. The only reason it's hard is because you guys have made it the third or fourth focus of your guys' business model.
You know, I'm not chasing inventory and forced to buy just because I need it and overspending and just getting whatever I can get. Those days are dead. And that's what we're all accustomed to doing. So again, we're not the tool, we're the lens into your soul.
Just because you're giving them the tool doesn't mean inventory becomes easier to find.
And all of that is where the pitfall lies for the franchise dealer and the large dealer groups. And that is,
are you wasting your time and money on inefficiencies in the business? Are sales down and lead conversion rates are low? Are you having problems building or maintaining inventory levels? What does it really take to win in the automotive industry?
Get the cars that make sense for your store rather than just wishing at an auction. So it gives you that better control.
With over 25 years of experience, Darrell the Wolf Steed isn't just another industry voice. He's the guy who's out there solving real problems for dealers just like you.
They'll even say in the Pacific Northwest where you're at that it's a tougher market. It's it's tougher to find cars. The market's a little bit softer, and in the midst of all this, your turn doubled and your profits up 75%.
Yes.
The truth hurts only when it should. Are you ready to hear the truths? Darrell is here to unpack the hard truths and the proven strategies that will take your dealership from struggling to soaring. And he is taking it all in the streets, with real talk, open dialogue, unfiltered conversations. This is the podcast series, Street Smarts, powered by Smartwolf Consulting.
Welcome back to another episode of Street Smarts, powered by Smartwolf Consulting. Today, we get to actually chop it up with one of the industry titans on how you can not only become more efficient, but profitable as well by being effective in understanding what the inventory is doing in the industry. John Ellis has had decades of experience of navigating pretty much every tough time we've seen, from the 08 to COVID to the ins and outs of it. And he's come up with a solution that I absolutely love because it allows us to actually measure things and then be able to manage it to effectiveness with Agile Auto. So we're going to get started and kind of talk about what the state of the union is with used cars, as well as kind of get some industry insights and how dealers can actually take action today. So John, thank you so much for coming to the show. And I really appreciate you taking the time. As we start every episode of Street Smarts, is we like to know, not career-wise, we all know that everyone's doing up, down, left, right, but when it comes to life, where are you winning? What's going well for you in just your life, everyday life?
oh boy, I love that, Darrell. That's I don't think I've been asked that before. So kudos to you for the challenge question. It's a good one because balancing work and life is so important. My wife is a certified nutritionist, and she's also a personal trainer. She's been on me for years and years, and to eat better and to exercise and to keep your mental health. And I've listened to her, thank goodness. She's smarter than me. And so in the area, I'm 56. So the area of being healthy, eating right, keeping my weight under control, but feeling better. We've really done a good job, and it's thankful. I'm so thankful to her for that because, prior to being here, I was in a little bit less stressful situation. And it's needed. I need the health. I need the mental clarity that comes from being physically active and eating correctly, so I don't feel sluggish all day long. So that's an area of life that I think is an area we're winning. Yeah.
That's I'm glad that you actually said that. I saw your post too. You were doing the straight arm downs, yeah. And I don't know how much you were pulling down, but it looked like you were definitely getting to work. But it's funny you say that, like the physical aspect and the eating aspect, right? And it doesn't mean you have to be a gym rat or that you have to live in there 6 hours a day, because I'll be the first one to say I don't know how people do that either. But when you keep that mental clarity and you've got that health and you've got that like discipline of like the routine and making sure that that's a focus, I find it not odd or anything else, but I find it where the parallels of your success in business are directly correlated to how you treat yourself, your body, more times than not, of if you're eating healthy, you're being healthy, because your mental clarity, right? You're more sharp, you're ready to go. You're not like, oh, I'll get to it, and kind of like nodding off. So, that's been a big focus of mine. I used to look like I ate me, and it was one of those things where I said, no, look, I need to take that focus. And again, like you said, behind every great man is a better woman. My wife said, hey, we need to do this better. You need to stop eating like that, and lost the weight, but then redefined it to where now I'm in shape, right? And but it keeps that focus going on all the time. So a real testament to you doing that. Now to jump right in is that, you've been in the industry. You're well known for giving economic updates and really giving people those insights, which, some people like to razz you on those. I always find them very insightful because it kind of gives us a path to where we're going, because we have to look at where we were. But you and a couple of people in the industry that you've partnered with have created what I think is probably the most cutting edge technology since vAuto came out when it comes to measuring efficiency, which is your Agile auto platform. And I want to spend some time on what that does. And I got a little snippet here so that it gives a little visual that I ripped off your website. But kind of just going over, when it comes to dealers, right? Where do we see the big pitfalls with dealers in the sense of inventory, whether it be new or used inventory? Is it turn time? Is it cost to market? Where's these things where we see a lot of dealers not understand or not getting the right tool to measure this to where they can be effective?
That's a great question. And it goes back to your earlier statement of us being in this industry for so long, living through 08 and 09, living through the pandemic, seeing the shifts in the market through both of those, and then understanding what the next 10 years are going to look like. And all of that is where the pitfall lies for the franchise dealer and the large, dealer groups. And that is, they've been very self-reliant for so long on new car trades, used car trades, and other areas of the business to grab direct from consumer inventory and fill the used car need, that they've never built the muscle, right? And
sure.
For what's needed today. And it's a scary place to be. So understanding that the used car trades that come in, 30% are not profitable. They're old or mileage heavy. Reconditioning and frontline readiness is almost impossible. Also understanding that most of their service lane cars are in the same condition, right? People can finally afford to fix the transmission or whatever, or the drivetrain or whatever's wrong, but they've been keeping their money in their pocket for long. So those cars are just in a lot of trouble when they come in. Good
sure.
for fixed ops, but it's not a great car to trade for. And it's such a different market that dealers are having to look outside their internal store to keep sales pace and profitable sales pace, but they're so auction averse in many cases.
Sure. Well, I think that's interesting. Just looking at the graphic we have up, is that for those of you guys that are watching this, you'll see the graphic if you're listening to it. It's a graphic of a source breakdown, a month to date, which this is one of the key pieces I like in this. Is we always talk about measuring by source and, your inventory, where's it coming from, things of that nature. But what I think people fail to realize is understanding source can be broken down to Facebook, Craigslist, and private party. It can be broken down to which auction. You can really dive deep. But if you don't know where you're at in each one of these main segments, which is auction, trade, and then direct, it makes it very tough to understand where your profits are coming from. And more importantly, where do you need to stretch or where do you need to get to? For instance, if I've taken in a lot of trades, maybe I know I don't have to go to the auction as much. If I haven't, then I'm going to have to look at auction and direct, because I can't not stock to where I'm going. I can't not be there. And I think even though it's a very simple graphic, it's an easy snapshot within the dashboard of I don't need to be deep diving in every single day for 2 hours. I need to know where I'm at and understand where I'm going. And so I like that piece of it. There's other things in here that I'm sure we'll talk to, but that is just one of those first things you're if we ask dealers in a room, where are you at in just those three sectors? How many have you got from auction? How many have you got from trade? And how many have you got from direct to consumer? I would be willing to bet if in a room of 100, less than 10 could give you those numbers on their date, like month to date, or where they're at for the week, because it's not something they think about. And if it's not something you think about, then you're probably not aware of where you're at and where you need to get to your stocking ratios or to your turn ratios. So I think that's really interesting, but I'd love you to talk a little bit about when you guys came up with Agile Auto, what were you guys doing, or what was the focus of having dealers being able to see this and then have more controllable insights to where they could get to the goal they want? Not necessarily a pipe dream where they just say a number, but a measurable goal that they could achieve.
Yeah. So specifically, the fundamental tenet of Agile Auto is acquisitions come before retail, period.
I love it.
It's tantamount to this. Running the play comes before the touchdown. If you don't run the right play correctly, you're not going to score the touchdown. And dealers focus on the touchdown first.
Sure.
We've been very reactive in our acquisition strategy. Well, surely we'll take everything we can buy from in the store. That's not what we're talking about.
Yep.
But making sure that the allocation of inventory, which is at the top right of the screen, matches our unit production goal and an increased goal if we want to push the needle, but doing it in a way where the tortoise beats the hare, meaning we're methodically buying every day and every week to match market conditions and not be over or under leverage, was our intended goal. Let's get them focused on acquisitions first, pull them away from the retail first focus. Let's show them how they're leveraged to sales rate and revenue production by their current inventory set. And then also give them a very easy to read daily and weekly acquisition plan, so that even if the market's accelerating or decelerating in value, which MMR does all the time now, it doesn't matter. As long as they have a consistent plan where the tortoise always beats the hare, you're not jamming your fixed ops department with frontline readiness needs. 40, I sold 40, I'm buying 40. That never worked. It doesn't work anymore. It worked pre-2019. Or you're reducing your floor plan costs because things are coming in methodically and evenly by the proper channel. And specifically for us in Agile Auto is this: if you're not meeting acquisition strategy goals, yeah, we're going to measure it and show you where to spend money and focus more time. That's what that far right box for retail performance is. It goes into revenue generation and turn time. But more importantly is we're going to push you into the auction. And we're going to do it in a very methodical way so that you're not just buying to buy. You're buying with a purpose in mind from the auction. And that purpose is to fill the glass full to its top, right? So if it's almost to the top and it needs a few more, we're going to push you to auction. We're going to measure that activity to show you that not only was it profitable to its extent, but also sales pace generating, so that you get more trades and you get more direct from consumers because you went to the auction and got the activity you needed to generate more of that other activity you love so much. Dealers they were unfamiliar or too timid or hands off. They just, that's not my way. And the dealers that are 99% self-efficient that come on Agile Auto typically go to 70% and increase their sales rate by 20 and 30%. Because we've shown them a very methodical way to stretch it using the auctions, but not hurt themselves. Stay risk averse.
So, and it's funny you say that, right? Because when we first started talking, we talked about like muscle memory, right? Like you develop muscles. And, you know, I've been speaking a lot about that because I'm like, okay, look, when we sell a car, there's got to be 50 little things we do. It only feels like 5 or 6 because you have the muscle memory. So some of these things just kind of happen. But when it comes to making acquisition first, it's like being a toddler who's learning how to walk, right? You're like grabbing onto the couch and you're cruising. And because you're like, I don't have the muscles, I don't have the memory. And I'm like, you don't understand acquisition. The only reason it's hard is because you guys have made it the third or fourth focus of your guys' business model. If you made it primary and dove into it and you use these tools, it would be just as easy. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it would become just as fluent is selling a car, because you'd be like, yeah, there's still 50 things that have to be done, but I've now generated the muscle memory of understanding 30 of these things just happen naturally. I have to actually work at the other 20. And so it's funny when you're giving them all these insights, because I was talking about another industry tool that probably works conjointly with what yours is the lot pop stuff. And if you're like, hey, if I know I have 8 leads on one car, and it's like the perfect conversation of kind of what you're saying is, I have 8 leads. Well, now if I have this, I know I have to be pushing the auction because I only have 1 car to sell to 8 people. So now you'd say, hey guys, we can push you over there, buy methodically and get 1 or 2 of these, sell them to 2 of the 8 customers because we're not going to close all 8, but maybe we get 3 of them because now we can go get that car. But now you're telling them this is where you use the auction as a strategy, not a reactive device. This is where you go to direct so that you can be the tortoise and you don't have to make reactive decisions. And then like what you just said, which and if you, I, Frank, and a couple of us that are like banging our heads into this brick wall could get dealers to understand this is if when you acquire, acquisition becomes first, unless you're doing something inherently wrong, you're going to take in more trades. And if you take in more trades, then let's get real. Your profitability should go up unless you're doing something inherently wrong. Your fixed ops goes up, your absorption goes up, your sales go, like everything trickles from that because you're driving in the inventory that is desirable that people want to then come in and buy. And I love how when you look at this, you're like, and you're not setting these crazy goals, right? Like you're saying, let's look at the day, the week, the month, right? It's not the eat the pie, it's eat a slice of the pie, right? And it's measurable and efficient. So I think that's really great. The other thing I love about this, and I know I'm a big geek, but I like how simple you've made this is with the colors. I know there's 5,000 dashboards out there and God forbid, like any of these, or most of these are useless. But when you have a color like this and then you have the wheel and you have some of these things, it's simplistic of understanding. Okay, well, green is good. Okay, red, not so much. Okay, and blue is cold, right? Like, hey guys, you're not even in the, so you've associated these colors to people like, hey guys, it's real simple to see. It's real understanding of what's happening. And it's also these sweeping movements. If you're in the red, we got to back off. But if you're in the light yellow to green, like you don't need to do these big moves anymore. These are small pivots, which I've been talking a lot about the pivot versus panic series.
Oh, yeah.
And because as you've said, the dealership, which I mean, for the last, call it 50 years, has always been, or we'll call it high 90%, has always been reactive. They've rarely been proactive and methodical. It's like, we'll be fine. And then when something happens, they're like, oh man, okay, no, what, like, and then it's just like this chaos theory rather than, hey, why don't we just make it to where we know what we're going to do? And instead of like this cardiac heart rhythm, we just have this, it does this, and it just goes up a little bit. And then and so I think it's interesting that you've given this tool out there. I remember seeing this at NADA. I remember seeing with JR Toothman and the success he's had with this. And you're talking about a destination small town store outperforming his market easily by 150% based on his demographic. And so I think that's kind of interesting because, like, could you imagine a big store, right? Like that has like in a major metro, if they were this methodical and what they can do. I'd love you to also tell us kind of about like, where is Agile Auto going? Like, I know this is like, we'll call it like version 2, right? Or version, like, where is it going to where it becomes the industry like tool or software of if you don't have this, you're definitely missing out. What's coming that's going to make it to where dealers like can't ignore it?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say that we are vendor agnostic. So I love your reference to LotPop or VenQ or vAuto. We absorb your inventory management data. We absorb your DMS data, and then we cross-reference it against our algorithms and then NADA KPIs to give you this view.
Sure.
Now, dealers set the parameters. So dealers set front goal, back goal, gross, front gross, back gross, the goal. They set their distribution between the source breakdown. They can 99%, certainly we'll follow that for a while, but the program will show you that 99% is not the best way. But we let them set all of their parameters, and they get to measure the success of everything they're doing in the store on this platform. So let's just say they change vendors. They go from vAuto to VenQ. You can watch the progression of success because we trend it down at the bottom year over year, month over month. What in this platform? Did my used cars grow? Did my revenue grow? Is my inventory acquisition better with their tool? So again, we're not the tool. We're the lens into your soul. What I like to say is, back to health and fitness, if you want to lose weight, eat in front of the mirror naked. Okay? It is the biggest return I've ever used, Mom. That's my wife's saying.
You know what? That's pure truth right there, guys. You just dropped the mic because I promise you, you ain't gonna eat as much if you're looking in the mirror. So, no, it's funny.
That's what we do. We reveal. We peel back the entire onion for a dealer. But what we found is the biggest, so general managers and used car managers are a little reluctant because it is a window into everything they're doing. General managers not so much, and used car managers eventually find they love it because they're like, this is what I've asked and told. They say, John, yes, it's holding me accountable, but now I know how to do it. And I know what they're watching too. So when my boss is putting the goals for the month, I got it. Now let me go do my thing, and I'll keep checking back and referencing to make sure I'm on track. So they've learned to love it. But in the beginning, it was like, oh my God, you mean the region manager, the group leader, everybody can see our store and our region? Oh my God, I don't know if I want to be revealed. But eventually it's like, everybody's on the same page.
It's funny you say that, though. I remember way, way back in the day when VIN Solutions first came out. Not VIN Solutions 1, but like when they came out with the new dashboard and like the upgrade and then the VIN lens. And I remember, man, every dealer that got that tool was like, I hate it, because it basically was like a mirror into your CR, and it was on that dashboard. Like, you, in a 30-second look, you could see what people were doing, calling, everything else. And you would say, hey, John, I'm just curious, how did you make 45 phone calls in 1 minute? Because it timestamped them, right? And so you're like, oh, crap, right? And so it's kind of funny you're saying that this is the lens into their soul of this. And I would love to ask you this, just because I've only seen this in 2 stores of like they're using it, but so when they set their own goal, right? And you've got, and the algorithm goes in there and shows them. Now, will the tool, the dashboard, or Insight, the report show them that, like, based on their goal, expected results, or as it goes on, it'll show them that they'd be more effective if they tweaked a goal?
Yeah.
Or does it just kind of leave them in the pit of misery until they realize that they're not successful?
So again, part of the performance manager calls, which is biweekly, is mid-month check-in and versus month goal setting, mid-month check-in, because by mid-month we know where we're going to be. Now we're working on maximizing that goal. But yes, so during the month, some of our, we've got large dealer groups like 21 stores, 11 stores, not Asbury size large, but a good size. And the thing that they really like is this is a report card for the store, but it's not a static report card. It's a live report card, meaning you can watch where that report card, which is the Agile ratio on the top right, is pointing, and manipulate the areas in the dashboard to put that back into green during the month. And the performance managers tell them, so you're behind on sales pace. Let's check your pricing strategy. Make sure that you're pricing effectively so that we're moving the inventory. And you can look at your aged inventory by price band and by age in here to attack that in your lot pop or whatever you use for that. But also, more importantly, is that top right box is the number one determinant of retail success. Do I have the inventory I need to hit the goals that I want? And am I continuing to fill? Remember, we're just topping off the glass of water. Dealers that leave it halfway empty and then fill it up are in trouble. So as we're just topping off the inventory need every month, we're getting the fresh, good pieces that give us the growth we want. Because I'm not chasing inventory and forced to buy just because I need it and overspending and just getting whatever I can get. Those days are death. And that's what we're all accustomed to doing.
It's funny you say that. So you guys are calling it inventory optimization or inventory effectiveness. I mean, whatever people want to call it. But I was talking to a group yesterday. And so I want to unpack this a little bit, because it's funny. I've talked to probably 15 groups this week. And I'm asking them, like, hey, how do you track these things? Because if they're asking for help, I want to see where they're at, right? Like, how much help do you need? Or are you already kind of dialed in? What are you attempting to do? And inventory optimization, or your stocking effectiveness, or whatever term they want to use, is that I'll ask them, like, oh, so what is your guys' optimization to sell? Like, they're like, we want to sell 1,800 cars between the 10 stores. Okay, perfect. What's your stocking optimization to get there? And they're like, oh, I couldn't tell you. And I'm like, okay, well, that's problematic, because if I say I want to sell 1,800 cars a month over 20 stores or whatever the group is, or 200 cars in one store, but you don't know how many cars it takes you to do that, and you're just on the hope plan. It's like, I hope if I stock 180, I can sell 200. I hope I stock 300, I can sell 200. Well, then you're already in trouble, right? Because you have your floor plan expense, you have your reactive thing. So, and then like you said, if you're topping off the cup, right? So let's say you're buying 5 a week. Let's just use that as the thing. That is a lot easier to do than saying, hey, John, can you go to the auction? Can you tell the buying center? Can you tell the service drive? I don't know how we're going to do it, but I need 45 cars this week. Oh, and by the way, and I remember hearing this from one of the groups I work with, and every time I was like, like I just shook my head because there was no point in an argument. It was, hey man, I need you to get about 20 cars this week. Make sure that we're going to be able to make front end profit at least $3,000 to $4,000 on the front. And I'm like, sure, yeah, whatever you say, bud. Like, because at the same time, I'm like, I'm not going to start an argument and have to get into a dissertation of how there's zero chance I'm finding 20 cars that have $3,000 to $4,000 front end profit, can then absorb a safety, can absorb your packs, and get them here in 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
And so I think this is great of like, hey guys, like we don't need to be reactive. And why I say that is the industry, whether it's the V-Autos, the VinQs, things like that, those are inventory management tools, and they're all good in their own right. They all have different things. But there hasn't been anything like this that has lessened the ability through education or through lens to not be reactive, right? You get like market day supply, but there is no analytic of like, what do I need to buy per day to do that? Like there really hasn't been a lot of these effective type solutions. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, finally, someone has created something that shows us how to work our business by the day, not by the month. Because when you work a business by the month, you have to make, well, I'll just stock up and hope it gets me there. I have to do, rather than saying, no, all I have to do is get 1 or 2 a day, right? And then you hear the things of daily acquisition rate, daily sales rate. Now these are all coming into picture, but you've kind of put it, which I also think is great. You've put everything in this dashboard, and I've seen this live dashboard, not just the example here, is you can get a peek without having to dive into anything real quick in just the layout of it. And it's not like confusing like you guys have in here. You want to just look at monthly revenue, you could click on that. If I just want to see where we're at buying, I can click on that. Like I don't have to like deep dive in every section. And then you have your agile ratio, which I really love because it kind of tells you, where are we at? Are we moving? Are we not moving? Are we heating up? Are we going behind? And so you could be the knuckle dragger, right? And we all know who you are, okay? The ones that like can't turn their computer on or they need asked help to like, open up Excel. Or you could be the like, the AI guru who like, writes code and everything else. And anyone can use this without complexity, right? It's been made to very simple education and simple in understanding so that we're not like in the weeds trying to understand what we're looking at. So I commend that because that's the other part of most software. It's like, yeah, we have this cool tool. It's got all these reports. I'm like, I don't want to get reported to death. I want to be able to see it and act on it. But when I wanted to kind of just jump into that, but like, I know you guys have some more things coming. I know that there's like you guys, this is starting to become one of the industry like conversations of how do I get more effective? What would be the first thing you would tell a dealer, right? They're struggling with used cars. If they got this, where's the first thing that they need to look at or they need to decide if they want to be in the acquisition or in the, the used car game?
Yeah, the first thing we feel like is a real value add coming on board with us is we can absorb 12 months of your data and show you how you have been behaving and performing. That's the start of the conversation because we need to learn as well, right? We can't make assumptions.
So that's your opening. That's your opening question to him. Is by the way, I'm going to show you just how bad it was.
I actually turn into a challenge. Would you like to see how you perform?
Yeah.
What your used car department's performance over the last 6 months looks like?
And does everyone go like this? Oh yes, I'm so excited to see what you're about to show me.
Well, yeah, because you're right. It's like, but the point is, you mentioned it earlier. The program will learn you and then tell you ways to improve. So I'll tell a dealer, I told, Rivard's a great customer and they're a top performing dealer. I said, Kate, you're an A plus dealer, right? But you can be an A++. Is that important to you? Yes. Okay. This is going to learn the A plus playbook. It's going to score you up top. And then it's going to tell you how you can become A++. Right. And that's what it'll do. So we challenge you, hey, let us take 6 months worth of your data in the first 90 days. And we have a discount for those 90 days because all it is analysis, a steep discount, because we want to show them the value of knowing yourself and then watching the AI tell you, but you can move the needle here. And it does. It'll point you in the area to grow your revenue and your units very methodically. So we keep you risk averse. And so that's our thing. But the biggest question I get from dealers, okay, you've written the CarMax kind of playbook. I get it. If I run it like this, I'll be in control, I'll be risk averse, and I'll have opportunities to grow. Yes. And I won't ever be, so we call it no surprises, no excuses, just results. But we're always asked, what about that inventory I need? I know you're telling me where to get it from, because I'm pretty much stuck in trading direct and what comes in the store. So if I need more, I need to get it outside the store. Got it. But what should I get? And so we have a page now where dealers can see their sales performance by make, model, VIN, trim. Their top 25 most profitable in the last 6 months, drill down to the last 60 days if you want, and top 25 least profitable. And then how much of that you actually have on the lot today. So your supply and demand. And in that, you can build a buy or sell list that can be exported to your preferred vendor. So if you have a B Auto Buying Center, or if you have a, whatever, if you have a buying team like you, Darrell, that would be an application where they'd send you the data and say, these are my top 25 most profitable. I'd like some more. And these are my top 25 least profitable in the last 3 to 6 months. I still have some on the lot. So if you can find somebody that wants these, maybe we'll do a swap. So we've given them access to their sales data like they've never had before, by anything you want, by mileage range, price range, so you can look at stocking optimizer and compare, or by make, model, trim, color, year. You can get as granular as you want. So that's been our way of solving that problem for dealers. I know where to go get it, but what do I need to go get?
It's funny you say that, though, because I'm going to relate it back to the private party acquisition, because you could obviously in service drive, this should be easier. It's your core product. You should be able to go after it. Should be. I'm not going to say it is, but we'll just say it should be. But when you talk about acquisition, because we know where you're going to go if in the auction, we know how you can sort and you can do those things. And there is, guys, mind you, I am the private party guy. I build these buying centers, and I'm the first one to tell you the auction's still necessary. It just shouldn't be something that you're basically enslaved to where you don't have other strategies. It should be a piece, but not the pie. But when it comes to all the other acquisition channels, whether it's lease returns, rentals, private party, third party leads, the fact that now you have a lens, a measurement tool to give a accurate, and I want to use that word accurate, because I know that people are like, oh, we give our buy teams buy lists all the time. Yeah, I'd love to see where that data comes from, because I've seen buy lists give to stores, and it's the ones that hey, well, John gave me a list, and it's the cars you really like, the cars you think sell well, because you're using your thoughts and feelings that no analytical data has been behind it. Or you sold really quickly, but you made no money on any of them, right? And you're like, well, yeah, of course I can get those cars, but you want me to go get Nissan Rogues, and we lose money every time we sell a Nissan Rogue. But it sells really quickly. Well, yeah, because we price it so low, because we lose money. And so now you can provide a buy list and say, here's the buy list, here's the car that on profit or turn or
front gross and back gross. We show. Listen, you can make a grosser out of any dog on the back.
Sure.
We tell you your propensity to finance that make, model, trim.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is now you can go like this. I can now divert my action. Now I get it. The setup and running that report and looking at it, you're going to have to take some time to pull that out. But now that I have that, I can actually say, guys, go after these cars. And I'm not saying they're easy to find, but here's the cars we know we can always do well with. But what I think it's also interesting is, okay, if I saw you gave me a report and it says every time you guys buy a Jeep Cherokee 2022, we make $2,000 on the front. Every time we've done it, we're averaging $2,000. Let's just say. Well, now I can also make the decision. If you said those are all moving under 30 days, let's just say for sake of argument, I can make the decision if I had to buy that, but now I'm only going to make $1,000 on that one rather than $2,000 because I had to pay up. Now I can make a methodical decision of I know it'll sell. I know I make back end. I'm going to lose a little bit in the front than what I normally do, but it's a fast mover. So now, like you said, it's not just about the hair of doing it slow and steady, right? Now you can become super surgically effective because you know which cars to push up on. You can say, look, I know I'm not going to make as much on the front, but these are fast movers for me, and I need some cars. Rather than saying, I hope when we buy this car that we can be profitable.
Yeah, I think part of it.
Yeah, because part of the buying centers and the acquisition strategy of first party and private party and third party leads is you're going to buy every car. That's the methodology, or you say you're going to do that. Some do, some don't. But you don't know your strategy in those things until you've kind of experimented with them wholesale. Well, now you're giving a lens. You're giving something to where, hey guys, yeah, it's going to take some time. It's got to learn what you're doing. And then once you have it, you'll know exactly what you can and can't do, whether it's a retail car, a wholesale car, like without even sitting there going like, well, I hope, right? The faster we can get rid of within that word, I hope, rather than I know, or the math or the analytics say that I have a better than fair chance. Because the hope plan is, okay, cool, right? You have a wish without a plan. That's called hope, right? And so I just think it's great that people now can look at that. And every way I've been that I train, right? Because you got trained, I got trained, baptism by fire. You throw them in it, okay, good luck, and we survived, right? The newer generation, not such an effective way to train people. But when I do training is if I remove all the excuses, all the excuses that you give me why it doesn't work, can't work, you're not effective, well, then you're the problem. So what you've done is you've created this tool now. Like if we take away all the excuses and show you all this, all you have to do is just do it. Like, there's no like magic formula anymore. It's like, just look at what it's telling you and follow these cursors. And I mean, I'll be the first one to say to a dealer though, just because you're giving them the tool doesn't mean inventory becomes easier to find.
Right.
So, but that's why you need this tool is once you know what it is, now you know what to go look for rather than just playing in the dark. Like, oh, I hope I find some inventory. I hope that like I find the right thing. So I mean, I love it just because I've been asking for stuff like this for 20 years when I was a director. How much easier would it have been without having to like trial by error this thing? And like you said, the CarMaxes and the Carvanas of the world, right? They're not like when they buy a car that doesn't fit them, which I mean, I don't know what that would be at this point, but they know to wholesale it, right? They know like, okay, this isn't effective for us, or we don't make money on this car. This isn't for, so you're also enhancing that end user conversation too, because it'll tell you, you guys don't perform with the 2016 Land Rover. Don't try to sit there and keep it because it's not for you, right? Because your dad is telling them this is not the right retail car.
Buy the VIN or make, model, trim, color, whatever you want to choose. We're going to tell you how many you sell, how profitable front, back, total, and how long it takes you to sell, and by what channel. How profitable are you on the auction channel? How profitable are you on the trade channel? How profitable are you on the direct? Because each one of those require a different pencil.
Sure.
And more importantly, we're going to tell you how often you finance that car. Because look, you know, a 40,000 mile car may have a completely different demographic in the financing department than a 10,000 mile. And we show you that. So that's important to know. I can count on some of this back end money when I make that buying decision on how much I want to pay for the car.
Well, I think that's the bigger conversation too, right? Like just to kind of open that up to dealers of a different perspective, understanding your back end, right? And I like to also know fixed ops as well, because fixed ops is net profit most of the time if you're running an efficient dealer, and then you have your back end. Well, we know compression is tighter than it's ever been. This is the tightest we've seen it in 20 years, easily in 20 years. And so if we know front end profits constantly getting super, super tight, and then let's just assume you're a dealer, you don't have packs, you don't have anything else getting in your way, you're just talking about a safety, and then whatever front end. Well, what if you only have $200-300 in front end profit because the cars that do well for you just don't, like you have to pay up to get them and you don't have this wiggle room. Knowing how much back end I make based on segment or based on year, make, model thing, whatever you want to, that makes a difference, because now I know, okay, guys, look, as much as I want the 10,000 mile car, we don't make as much back end on that, and we have no front end profits. But when we get the 35 or 40,000 mile car, we make $3,000 on the back and we make 500. Like, let's go after those, because that's our best potential of making profit for the store. So that's something I think is really great that you're now adding in the back end, because that has to be a conversation, because if you're counting on just front end profit, that's going to be a tough conversation for the current market and for a couple of years to come, until enough inventory is back out there to where the supply and demand kind of level back off. Because right now, demand is higher than retail supply. We know there's enough cars, but what's retailable to the demand is definitely out of whack right now.
Well, and just as importantly is what franchise dealers are comfortable retailing.
Sure.
Right? Because they're just not used to the 15-year-old car with $8,000 price points, right? But they're making dealers are making a lot of money when they get comfortable in that space too. Not their primary space, but not a space they avoid. It's interesting you say that because we built this tool for JR. So JR does have a very low front end gross. JR retails 300 used cars a month. And if I told you his departmental gross, it would blow your mind.
So it's probably somewhere close to it. It's probably 1.1, 1.2.
What we did for JR, we built this tool because he's a V-Auto power user, but he didn't have the other pieces. V-Auto doesn't tell you front gross, back gross, and it doesn't tell you propensity to finance. So now he knows, okay, how do I grow my departmental gross, knowing that my front end gross is this on average, and then these cars are going to help me get that back end money I need. Everything you just said, we built for JR. So think if you're a dealer that averages 2,000 front, and we have I see a lot of them, but their sales rate is not moving.
Sure.
We can say, hey, we don't want to change who you are. Agile Auto is just going to add the JR Toothman flavor into your current process, so you can also have that as part of your pie. We're going to slide another piece of pie in there for you. So instead of 100 units, you're going to go to 140. Sure, the average deterioration of PVR on the front end will be a little bit because you're bringing wholesale cars in there, but your departmental gross will almost double. Yeah. So that's where your real P&L number is. And so that's what dealers have struggled to do. And even the best performing new car stores and used car stores find value once they come on board after 90 days. So they're like, well, wait, we're doing things we've never done before and still doing the other stuff that we've always believed it was right to do. And look how much we're growing. But making that flip on your own is hard.
And it's funny you say that about the $8,000 car or less. I talked to a group. It's the first one I've talked to in probably a month. I mean, it kind of just goes to what you're saying, that a lot of dealers are not comfortable in that space of the as is or the lower price point type of car. And I was talking to them and they said, well, hey man, we want to build this buying center. So they reached out to me and I was like, okay. And we went over some things. They said, but I wanted you to know the one thing we do different. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go. The dealer that does something different. Like, okay. And he says, oh, we love as is cars. I was like, oh, 1 second. So I grabbed my pen. I said, tell me more. Because now I'm going like, what does that mean to you? And so I look at his website. Sure enough, half his inventory, he's got like 100 cars in stock. Half of them are under $9,000. So, of course, then I ask the questions, what's your turn? What's your profitability? He's like, oh, no, our turn's 28 days on those. Like, they just spinning them. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, so what's been your issue? And he's like, we can't get enough. Like, we can't. And I'm like, well, buddy, you're a franchise store that actually likes as is. I said, you are a beaming candidate for private party acquisition.
Yeah. Because
there's not a lot of stores. Like you said, it's not that they can't do it. They either don't know, they're not comfortable, or it's not something that they see. Like what you're telling everybody is, if I know my propensity to finance and I know my back end, you're giving them the base foundation information. But the piece that you're actually giving them is the long game, because you're now seeing, okay, like if I know how many finance, I also know what my turn is coming back to me, my potential customer retention too. So you're giving them the foundation for the big picture too. Is like, if I know this, and I grow my finance and everything else, I also know my customer retention, because if I'm financing 70% of my deals, then I know 70% of these have a high yield of customer retention in the 3 to 4 year time frame. So I think it's interesting that people always look at, like, right now, they're like, oh my gosh, but really you're actually giving them the lens to, if you do this and build it and put a little bit of that JR into even an old school or a lower volume model, you can grow your long-term strategy as well, which then goes into the service drive, customer retention, lease returns, whatever it may be, because now you already have a report that says, guys, we know 70% of our deals every month are financed, which means we can now create a plan for 18 months, 2 years, 3 years. Like, if you're so long, like if you have someone that's sighted enough to know to like take the information and now build the plan. Yeah. Right. Which I would imagine maybe Agile Auto in the next year will probably have that too. Like tell you, like, what's coming next down your funnel. So
we got a lot of fun stuff coming, but yeah, just to go back to something you said, it's a dashboard. It's another page with a bunch of mouse clicks and filtering. So you can produce your buy list in less than 10 seconds. And you can produce your sell list in less than 10 and export it to a CSV file, which can be FTP'd into any other platform. Yeah. Right. So there's no long reports to print. You can sort by color, body type, by trim, by sub trim level, so that you can get real granular on what you do really well in, and send that to you, Darrell, and say, hey, these are my top 25. I've only got 8 of these individual ones. I'd like to have 10 more of these, and I only need 5 this week. Right. So I'm not pushing you hard, Darrell. If you can give me 5 this week and 5 next week, then that's perfect. And guess what? Now they can go focus on trading direct.
Sure.
On their own, because internal to the store, because you're their external partner.
And when you're talking about like single store groups and everything else, right? Dealer comes to your guys' website, which you guys are seeing up right now. You can hit request a demo. You can contact John, but they come to you and they get going. Right. When JR did this, right. And you're talking, I mean, JR already was like indoctrined to vAuto, right? Like he was already using all the things that vAuto had and supercharging them. But when JR got this, kind of just give us kind of a little wrap up of like just, 30,000 foot view of like what he was doing. And then once he got this information, how quickly, or like how, I won't say quickly, how much more effective did it make him having this information? Yeah.
Think about that. Because JR is kind of the anomaly. Right. And so destination store on the side of a mountain in Grafton, West Virginia, where the average income is like sub $30,000. So he kind of already knew how to spin cars pretty quickly and use the wholesale channel. So like, how would this help him? Right. Sure. So here's how it helped him, which is still how it helps others. JR would have 2 or 3 good months and 1 or 2 half months, and then 2 or 3, because retail sales was their primary focus. And even him knowing acquisition was important, got caught up in the fray.
Sure.
Right. And the glass would always end up getting a little too empty. And then there was 1 month or 1 quarter where they were chasing their tail in acquisition. Never happens anymore. So that allows him to stay consistent and steady in his sale pace and grow it month over month, maybe 5 or 10%, instead of having a 20% growth month and an 18% loss month, because I didn't have the inventory to support my continued growth. And what that's the retail side of it. But what it ended up doing for him was it increased his time to line, because he wasn't buying in bulk and sending that to the back office to go get frontline ready.
Sure.
It saved him aging inventory, because he wasn't buying that month he was behind. He was buying 30 or 40 a week. Can you imagine the mistakes you make doing that off the street and an auction? You can. Yeah. And wholesale profit and loss was always a problem for him. Every 6 to 8 months, it would all accumulate to where he'd have to go dump a bunch of inventory at wholesale. Now, look, I say all that to say JR still did unbelievably well. But now we brought a level of consistency and sustainability to his business in all of those areas: frontline readiness, time to line, wholesale profit and loss clean, and then sales pace consistently growing with inventory that can support it. Those are the ways that JR improved.
So assuming we didn't use JR, because JR was doing well even before this, and then this just supercharged him even more, right? Because it gave him that.
Well, it kept the expenses down and kept bleeding out of the back end.
But if we talk about just a standard dealer, which the 3 things that it helped JR with, those definitely help any dealer. Let's get real. Time to line alone, and no mass buying would be a big thing. But what I thought that, I think about this and I say, okay, if I had a more consistent used car operation and cars coming in and then the sales rate, what's the one thing that consistency could help the auto industry with that is we'll call an epidemic of sort for the auto industry?
Yeah. Okay. So I think you've heard Frank talk about it.
Well, it'd be turnover.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 2 things. I'm so glad you said turnover, Darrell.
So turnover, if your sales guys aren't selling cars, or your shop doesn't have enough work, then you have that, and that just creates another spiral of nonsense.
Yeah. So imagine if this was your operating strategy for used cars at the store level, at the group level, it doesn't matter. One of the things that we've helped a couple of groups do that were having trouble and did a lot of employee turnover, right? Just getting the right people in the right seats on the bus, sure. Right? They can sit them right into this playbook. So you could lose this used car manager that's been doing this for a year. Maybe one of the sales reps come in and get promoted, or you bring one in from somewhere else, and you can sit them down. We'll train them on the playbook and say, this is how we run our business. So you don't have somebody with bad habits coming in. Certainly they'll bring their good habits, and that'll help enhance what you see on the screen. But it brings peace of mind to losing maybe your some of your valuable employees to promotions or just other things. You don't have the disruption in your business. Sure. That's a big one with this, because here's our playbook. This is how we run the used car department. Sit in the chair, John. Let us know what questions you have. But fundamentally, it is a used car operational tool. It makes sense to a fundamental used car guy. So,
Sure.
or gal, or girl. So that's one. The second thing is it keeps you from chasing the inventory imbalance set by rogue dealers. I hate saying that, but you don't want to play in that fray. And our dealers don't play that game. So dealers that get way behind in inventory or don't have a plan of buying set an inaccurate or bar for the rest of the people they're buying in the same channel.
Yep.
They increase the price. They bring desirability to bad inventory because they're buying a bunch of them, even though they shouldn't be either, right? And so it really messes the whole market up. And so if you're not calculated using a plan like this, like Agile Auto, you won't have the direction and the strategic guidance to say, y'all play, have fun. I'll stay right here. I know what I need. I don't need a lot of it, and I'm going to find what I need. Y'all go chase that other stuff. So it keeps you away from the fray.
I think that's the thing. Like we kind of give it in a different way is that it allows you to be able to say no to something with confidence because you know it doesn't fit the strategy. Like otherwise, again, I use that word victim, right? Because that's what you're playing the victim is. You're allowing yourself to be victimized by people's bad decisions when you don't have the data to make a good one, right? When you're just guessing and then kind of doing that. And now this is saying, look, there's no victims. You can measure it and you can stay the course and be consistent. The other part of turnover that I see, because it is a issue right now in the whole United States, is good service techs.
Oh wow, yes.
Service techs is a big, huge like hiring, like getting good ones or ones that stay. And I thought to myself, and I can't say this is going to guarantee no turnover, but I thought to myself, if you could have an ad or you could recruit and saying that like that your store's consistent, right? You don't have the down winter months, you don't have this, you don't have that. And you could say, we have this many ROs, this much work all the time. Don't you have the more quality people wanting to work for you because of consistency? Can't you then recruit them? And more importantly, could you not feel comfortable that you're going to have less retention issues because your techs aren't going to go anywhere because they don't have work because you're paying them on flat time or you're paying them on so all of a sudden, now you have that stabilized, which helps with time to line, which helps with quality control, there's just all these things that's why I'll be 100% honest. This is one of those big reasons I fell in love with it was not the initial data. I mean, the data is important. It's because it's like an oak tree. You've given like the first root of it, but there's so many other things that this then influences that would then turn a store around or shift the hard things we deal with in an automotive store, that it's just the consistency measure of it. We no longer have to look like a cardiogram doing this nonsense every month, right? Sold 15 cars, now I sold 4. Now I sold 25 cars. No, we can do this 15, 17, 18, 15. We can just and we can just keep rolling it. And then if you want to grow, then you make a little blip, not a big blip, but okay, we're going to grow it by 10 or we're going to grow it by you don't do these. Let's see how we do 50 more this month. No, let's do 10 and then another 8, then so that you can make methodical, long lasting results.
Yeah.
Which I think is where the business has to go. Otherwise, I mean, the big groups are going to absorb them because the big groups, the CarMaxes, the Carvanas, the AutoNations, that they know that's where it's at is we want consistent. We do not want these radical paradigms because that's like you said, then you don't know where you're at. You're just guessing.
Yeah, the CarMaxes are doing this already. What we see on the screen, they don't care about MMR. They don't care about what you're bidding or upbidding. The reason they can upbid what they want is because they know how they do. They know how well they do, and they know how many they need.
Sure.
So they're very calculated in their approach, and that's why they can stay out of the fray. And that's what we try to help dealers do is to focus on their business, not other people's business or the market.
I want to kind of wrap things up with this story because Frank was just talking about Frank Knox, and then I just heard a store kind of say the same thing, and I thought it was interesting because I'm like, they must not have seen Frank Knox's thing on All Things Acquisition and on his podcast was CarMax had just given an offer somewhere in where was it? I think maybe LA, and I think it was retail book on this car, like an actual certificate, retail book.
Yeah.
And the dealer, I was talking to him, and they're like, I mean, I can't compete with CarMax because they're paying these big money. And I'm like, Well, guys, before we get into the whole CarMax conversation, they know all the data. So if they're giving retail book, what does that tell you? Like if I see that number, the first thing I'm like is that means it's selling for over that, or let's go the other route. They're going to sell it at that. No, they're going to lose a little bit of money, but this must be a huge trade driver, a huge merchandising driver where it drives a lot of traffic, which then operates switch pieces. Like they don't do this just because, like, you know what? It's Tuesday. I'm going to just start throwing out crazy numbers. And so I said, this is kind of this thing is like you guys took this and said, hey, you guys want to start getting into the conversation of running your business like the most successful used car operation is in the country. You need to understand the data because they aren't just doing it just because of the front end profit. They know all these other metrics of how quick, how much back end, how many trades, how much. So they go, yeah, we might operate this one at a loss, but it brings us 3 more opportunities. Well, if a dealership does that, guys, isn't that the name of the game? Is like, I mean, we lose money all the time in the dealership without knowing what we're doing. If you can make a calculated loss, right, to then gain 3 or 4 more customers or get the trades or get this, at least now you know going into it what it's bringing you rather than we thought, we feel, we might know, we don't, I don't know, right? So I think that I want to commend you. I'm going to have to send you your flowers because I think this is one of the best things that I've seen come out in the last couple of years, just because you're now taking anybody that can come into this. And now dealerships have lost the ability to have the excuse of, well, we don't know what it would take, or we don't know how to use it, or we don't have the right people. Like, no, you guys have the training, you have the software, like they have the software, you're putting the lens on it, the magnifying lens and the strategy to where they can do whatever they want to do as long as they're willing to put in some work.
Yeah, and our performance managers are ex-used car and operators that work with your team to be an extension of your team. So even if your people are rookies or new, you've got a partner in the business, right?
So you guys, listen, I hope that while you guys are watching this, you got to learn at least one thing that you can take back, actionable. I would highly encourage you guys, and you guys have probably seen at this point 40 or 50 episodes of Street Smarts, and I've only shown 2 products. So that kind of tells you like where I live in the product sector of what ones I believe in and which ones I don't. You'll never see a CRM on this show. Okay. It's just not going to happen. But when it comes to operational things, I want to put people in front of people that make things not easier, but allow you to do your job in an effective way, right? Because that's how you maintain consistency and security for yourself, right? That's how you don't lose your job, is when you're consistent. Mm-hmm. John, I want to thank you for coming on because let's get real. You're a wealth of knowledge. Okay. It doesn't matter what anyone says on all things used cars. Your economic update is the best. Okay. We're throwing that one in there. And I know it helps a lot of people. If you guys have any questions, comments, you want to troll me or John, you want to tell us good things, bad things, make sure you put comments down below. And we will see you guys on the next episode of Street Smarts powered by Smartwolf Consulting. John, stick with me for just 1 second.